isn't it under farming?
It is, not under farm, yep,
It's under farm business
yeah,
or R&D, which is kind of like a
Yes.
C3,
right.
light industrial.
Well, I think it's appropriate.
So are you saying that it doesn't, it shouldn't also be listed under farm?
I don't think so.
No?
It's
Yeah.
not, like, the
No,
farming,
it's
as I
not.
see it, is just kind of for agriculture.
Right, it's
And
the
all the
actual
support things.
farming, animal,
It's not, they're not to have a rental,
Okay.
they're not renting,
Yeah.
you know, renting.
Okay.
you know, okay. All right, head book support services, crop and animal production.
So what's the
Excuse me, but
difference between
that should
crop
also-
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
right, so it's, right now it's under RD, okay,
And farm business.
Yes,
and farm business,
the things that support farming,
yes.
Right.
Well, shouldn't that also be in C?
C1 and 2.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, what are you talking about now?
Go back to the.
agricultural support
Support
services.
establish-
No, because if it's like an office use, then
Yeah.
it just comes under the general office.
Yeah, so it should be permitted then for C1 and C2.
Well, not based on the definition
Yeah,
is
'cause
what
you
they're
wouldn't
saying.
want,
Yeah.
There you go,
Oh,
that's what
yeah,
it said.
you're shelling and,
Yeah.
Siloing and all that.
It's just the support
Okay.
services sound
Yeah.
way broader than it
Yeah.
actually is based on this
Yeah.
definition.
yeah, yeah,
It's an FS, farm services.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I think the support word is maybe confusing. I don't know. Because to me, like, my first thought was more Farm Bureau
Yeah.
or not true machinery.
But that's what the definition's there to.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it would also fall under professional services,
Yeah.
which is permitted C1, C2.
Right.
and-
Yeah, then if it's just an office use, then it
Right.
wouldn't,
Yeah.
just
So
consider it that.
we're covered.
Yeah.
All right, so crop and animal production, that's fine.
So
and farm
what's
and
the
farm
difference
business.
between crop production and animal production?
One's a plant.
Crop,
one's a-
yeah,
Why would
one's
you
a
have 'em-
plant.
Why would you have them together is the root of my question. Crop production, I understand pretty well. Animal production, I'd like an explanation.
Well, that's livestock, like cattle, poultry for, you know, pork, beef, poultry production. Dairy, that's what that's referring to.
Okay.
So it's crop
So-
or animal,
Yeah.
they're all permitted in the same spot.
So my only question is, why do we have them together? To me, that's very different. Don't get me going on the rooster and the chickens again. But,
No, because
Should
a
they
lot
be
of
separate?
times, no, absolutely not. There's no need.
It's still
Because a
farm.
lot of times a farmer will do both.
Yes,
Like you have a lot of dairy farmers, beef farmers, they raise their own crops for feeding their animals. So it just, might as well just lump it together.
Yep, I agree. All right, move on. Farm stand,
Yeah, I just, we had an inquiry, and it,
Go ahead.
Barb's not here, but it came up, and it was for someone who inquired about a farm stand, and I think the house was in RE1,
okay,
large area, and they wanted to, I don't know
Yeah.
if they're gonna raise tomatoes or cucumbers or something,
Yeah.
have a little farm
Farm
stand
stands.
along the road.
yeah.
And I looked at the table and I go, well, we don't allow it, but why not? If someone wanted to sell
Yeah.
tomatoes along the road or whatever, our definition of farm stand is something that's temporary, it's just out. I didn't see any harm in that, so then I went and annotated the table. This is all
Okay.
very recent.
I mean,
Okay.
literally, that could be someone with just a,
Large
a,
garden.
well,
Exactly,
large garden with
yeah.
a table outside
Yeah.
of their house that's got some tomatoes and cucumbers sitting on the outside
Right.
and a
Dropbox.
drop box,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't see a problem with it.
I think farm stand's a little bit more substantial than that, I guess, that would be my impression, rather than just somebody selling lemonade or something, but it's not, so farm stand, yeah, RE1, RE2, RE3 is fine, C1, C2, commercial, sure, and then
Yeah.
farm business, and then open space as a special use.
I mean, I
Yeah.
could see special
Yeah.
use only because it requires, some more participation of the owner of that land.
Right,
Being-
but it's like,
They
yeah,
wouldn't be raising the crops on the open space.
they might, because like
Oh, they
Brown
would.
Road, they
Brown
got they could,
Right.
maybe say they'll all get together and they'll all sell all the
Yeah.
produce and stuff.
Yeah.
so that's
And,
what I'm
and,
saying, so.
and really, I forgot to note, so the C1 and C2, I'm glad you read that out. So the definition of the farm stand is for the sale of products that have been sold on the premises, and I can't.
Or raised on the premises?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
raised on the premises. So unless someone has like a window garden in there, you know.
The idea is not to import Michigan blueberries.
Yeah,
Sell them,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, but if you're growing
Yeah,
pumpkins
yeah.
and stuff, yeah.
Exactly, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the
Okay.
idea, you
Okay.
know.
All right,
So I don't know if we need it in C1 or C2, I mean, it doesn't really fit the,
yeah, yeah.
but that came from the
Yeah, I would take that.
2023
Yeah,
ordinance.
let's take out C1 and
Okay.
C2.
Well, but what about, so there's a few examples in the area of people having a roadside stand that they're still raising the produce, but it's mile two down the road, you know, not on.
That's different, that's not zoning.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, no, but I'm saying the farm stand itself, the off-premise one, would, if it was in a C1 or C2, would they be permitted to do that? Because it's still not technically on site of where they're growing it, but it's still their own produce.
I've encountered things similar to that. I haven't done that because I haven't been in rural areas. So people want to sell sports paraphernalia. The Chicago Bears make the Super Bowl. In fact, this happened the last time they were in the Super Bowl. And all these tables were set up on every street corner selling Chicago Bear hats. And we shut them down. It's not their business. They're in the right of way, you know, go get your own store. And we chased them out. It's the same principle for if you're selling tomatoes. Unless you're actually growing them on the property, then stop doing it, you know.
Okay.
That's farmers markets are for.
Yeah, that's why you have a farmer's market.
Right.
And there you can sell your Michigan blueberries.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay,
And your counterfeit Bears paraphernalia.
Yeah. You
And
can do
then
that too.
we got rid of all the temporary uses, which we talked about in the staff memo and stuff like that, so that's been all Xed out. Okay, so that is a pretty good over of the table. All right, the definitions, we slogged through that last time, we'll go ahead and try to move through. I tried to make some comments as we go through. I'm looking at mostly on the comment section of looking what you were asking, or some guidance from us for what you were asking, and I'll put in my comments, so, I'm just gonna be on the first page here, page 1, and just said it's a new definition. And we would discuss that already, so, under the next line, it says animal care products, farm supplies, sale of feed, now under support functions for agriculture, so you just move that, that's fine, moving that. And then, under agriculture, you just have some pretty, specific, definitions there for federal code of regulations, so I don't think we're gonna change
Yeah.
the federal code of regulations and wordsmith that at all. So then, towards the bottom of page 2, this is where we talked about the amusement facility indoor, getting rid
gone.
of that. Yep, that's gone, and then, I agree with that, how it, falls in an arcade and fitness center, so that's been taken care of. Next page, the comment section says, under animal hospital and veterinarian, it looks like it's spelled correct there, good job. Change in terminology from
There's
animal care.
spell correct in Word, there isn't in Excel. There's not so good.
Change in terminology from animal care facility, which nobody, to a more commonly used animal hospital and veterinarian. So that's good.
Well, nobody uses tobacconist either, but we skipped over that one.
Which one? Tobacco?
Sorry, I don't buy my tobacco at the back of this, I buy it at apothecary.
And where do you buy your hats?
I don't buy hats.
Haberdashery?
Okay, art gallery, art gallery, I think there was some discussion about that later on too, about, something that sells art versus something that, like a museum that displays art, so that's later on, I think that's a good distinction. And then you put this under retail sales and service, I agree with that, and I think that's gonna be good. Here, when you asked for a better title for, which was arts studio, and now it's kind of more encompassing of studio, physical activity, and hobby.
I came up with something else, I was working yesterday, I can't remember what it is now, but I did come up with a better
I
title.
threw just a couple quick things I threw out, leisure activity studios.
Okay.
or instructional or learning studios.
Those are good, all right, I'll note those.
So those are some, just a couple that came to the top of my mind, so just, they'd be kind of encompassing of a lot of different types of things, of physical activity, photography, music and stuff, so.
Or arts instructional studio.
Yeah, some things aren't arts, but
Because you want to keep the arts focus as opposed to, I don't
it's
know.
also, there's martial arts.
Yeah, martial arts,
There's-
gymnastics.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah,
so, and then there's, photography, which can be very scientific, music, so, yeah. But that was my input for a better title, something along those lines. Okay, now back to the auto parts, accessories, and repair and all that good stuff. So my first question is, I think there's 3 sections. We've got, here we have we've gotten rid of auto parts, accessories, and tires, and then clean that up.
Yeah.
We've got auto body and auto repair, I get that. And then we have auto parts and auto accessory sales, I get that. I think it was down, there's another one you got, but it's further down, it's on page 29, under auto parts, accessories, and tires. Now, was that something that should have been removed, or is that, so are there 3 separate categories that we're defining?
That should have been removed.
That's what I thought,
Yeah,
'cause that was like
somehow
the first
it
one,
got
okay,
put in
that was
here.
just a little confusing to me.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, so then
I-
that
yeah.
clears it up for me. Okay. Okay, so then there's just 2.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, Autobody, okay, that's fine, and I think that's what we wanted. There was, we'll get to it later, just a comment, we'll come back to this, about breaking that down into a Jiffy Lube versus a, for example, we'll come back to that as we go down the line. Beer, wine, liquor store says we could combine, your suggestion, you could combine this in retail general. I kind of like just leaving it, I'd say I wouldn't combine it, I'd leave it separate, very distinct.
Okay.
And that's what
Yeah,
yeah.
because of restrictions and.
Yeah, so I would say, it's a good suggestion, but I would prefer not to combine it.
That's okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. No change in the bed and breakfast definition, I'm looking on the next page, was page 5, I'm not seeing any comments there. And that's what I'm focusing on, I'm focusing on comments that you're looking for. Page 6, camps has been included in the revised definition. It says campground, camps/campgrounds. Yeah, just a little bit of thought, so you're saying, a campground, I guess, a camp, just trying to get the, behind it, what were we trying to do is something, what was making the nexus of it saying, yeah, this is a camp, this is a campground. I understand a campground, people come in, they pitch your tents and everything, but then a camp, is that more of a fixed structure type thing, like, was that the idea here?
Well, we have to be careful with the word camps now, because a lot of children's activities are calling their summer activities camps. So I don't know if that really affects this or not, but like, there's a coding camp, there's a basketball camp, there's, like, some office type locations could be having camps, but I don't know if that really affects this definition or not.
It does. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, because this is really intended for campgrounds.
Right,
And when we use camp, it could be, archery camp or, gun camp or whatever. I mean, this really, to me, is tailored towards campgrounds, where you
Right.
have a location that's specific for camping. So I would remove the word camp from that definition.
Would you, but keep the new definition then, which is in the middle column?
Yep.
Yeah,
And just call it campgrounds and not camps.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay, all right, I like that. And then we just basically the new terms and definitions for cannabis business establishment and dispensing organizations, which is all part of the legal definition of the Tax Act. So there's new, let's see, no change to car washes and cemeteries. Community residents, I'm just going on page, sorry, I'm not, page 8 now, I'm just looking for, I'm not seeing any red or any requests for comments. Under 9, we have a new definition on page 9, a new definition for convenience food store, food mart. I guess there wasn't one. There wasn't a definition before, it appears. All right, that's fine. The next one below it,
What page are you on, Ralph?
9.
Okay.
Under convenience store, food mart, new definition was added. And now moving on to the next one right below it, the museum cultural facility, which I think we talked about briefly before, about something versus selling versus something being displayed.
Right.
So we're just making that distinction, so I think that's a good distinction to put in there. Okay, moving page 10, there's just a long.
It's not a state statute.
Yeah, the daycare center.
Well, let's not revisit that.
Yeah, and then we'll pass page 10 and then go to the bottom of page 11.
Said
That-
daycare home as well, that's not a
Okay,
state
that is,
statute.
that one's okay.
So that definition of warehouse club needs to be in alignment with the table.
Yeah, so warehouse club would be.
Right, we'll change that as well.
Membership
Membership
club or
club or
something
member,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah, we'll change that, make that annotation. Okay. All right. Now moving on to 12. Let's see, that's the energy systems, which I think made sense. It's just basically, instead of having two separate principles, you have one energy, and then you just have wind and solar. And that's separated, and that's fine, no problems there. And then that was page 12, on to page 13. I did have one notice at the very bottom under gas station. In the definition, it does talk about automotive repair there.
Yeah, it does.
So we want to remove that, because I think that's what the idea from before was.
That's what you want, yeah.
Yep, because I think that was before was we
The
had.
service station was, or gas station was specific to dispense and no
Yes.
repairs of any
Yeah,
type.
yeah, so we want to
It's the
remove.
sale of petroleum products and
Related
snacks and
snacks and
liquor
goods,
and
yeah.
everything
Yeah.
Well,
else.
I think your middle definition's fine, just strike that last, these establishments may
Right, yeah.
further provide
Yeah,
services.
Just,
Yeah, I'll do that.
just remove automotive repair.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
automotive oils, replacement parts, accessories, or food and beverages sales. Yeah, very good. Okay, so strike the automotive repair. All right, that's bottom of page 13, top of 14. Golf course driving range, do we need this? Might be similar to amusement outdoor. I think it's so unique and different that I would probably keep it unique and different. It's gonna have its own set of challenges anyway.
Okay, yeah.
Especially water, it's gonna be a huge
Yeah,
issue
oh,
for
well,
that. So I would keep it separate, because it's gonna definitely have its own set of challenges. Government facility, title change to public administration, okay, and you're saying you're using best practices there, okay?
And we are excluding the government-owned field houses. That was a suggestion at one of the meetings.
Okay. Which would be considered a park, of course, okay. Grocery store, supermarket, or bakery, there's no category existing matrix. Okay, so you add one in there, sure. Yeah, if you have something like a small grocery store or something, that'd be great. 14, that was 14. Page 15, I did not see any changes or seek of input. On page 16, there, on your question was combined with professional services and investment banking, securities and brokerages, I said yes.
Okay.
That's what I would combine that with professional services.
All right.
And then the next one below says, could this category be combined with greenhouse or nursery, and that's lawn and garden supplies? And my answer is yes to that as well. They're similar but different. But,
Right, and we're essentially treating them the same in the zoning.
The
the table,
zoning
so.
wise, yeah. So,
Well, except there is a difference, could be a difference in scale,
Right,
because if you have a store, you could have a storefront doing, lawn and garden supplies,
but if you have a nursery, you need
You got
much.
acres.
Yeah,
and then it's bordering on, farming, no.
Yeah, but
It's
I mean, again,
plant
is
farming
it
as
something that?
opposed to, food farming or.
Right. But is it, when you talked about a store,
Yeah.
same thing with the hardware stores, it's something we consider general retail.
Right.
You know, we try and, my philosophy is, try and wrap up things that you can wrap up. And then if there's a danger of something you don't want, I always use the example, a lot of towns are against tattoo parlors. So under a standard definition of personal services, a tattoo parlor might fit. So in that case, you'd want to split them up, because we want to
Yeah.
prohibit the tattoo parlors.
Right.
But the impact is the same, the lawn and garden supplies, it's just someone
Scale.
selling,
It's just another
I
store.
don't know, a trowel and.
It's retail.
Yeah, then it's retail.
Well,
Yeah,
but my question would be the, zones that it's being, like, if you lump greenhouse and nursery in lawn and garden, the zoning is gonna be affected. Like, do you want a greenhouse in a C1?
No, I mean, we just eliminate the lawn and garden category and just
So
kind
you're
of wrap
going
up the
more towards the
definition.
greenhouse?
Yeah, just wrap up,
Okay.
include that in the
Yeah.
definition of nursery, greenhouse.
Okay. Because
it-
to
have
me,
it-
that's
have
the
it-
biggest variation is,
Yeah.
you could have a supply store in C1, but you can't put a greenhouse in C1.
Yeah,
So that's the only
Yeah.
question I
Should be
have about,
hydroponics.
yeah,
please.
right.
Rob, page
Yes.
number again?
I'm at the bottom of 16.
Or we,
Yeah. All right. All right. If there are any further comments, we'll press on.
Okay, so we're eliminating the lawn and garden supplies?
And just combining
And
it.
combining
Yeah,
that
I'll-
in retail.
Yeah.
Combine the
Yeah.
definition
Okay.
somehow to include it.
And nursery and greenhouses, we haven't gotten to.
Wait a minute, your comment was we're combining it to retail, or we're combining it into greenhouse and nursery?
What Terry was talking about is someone has a smaller shop, that's gonna be retail. But if it's, they have outdoor storage, the bags of fertilizer,
Plants.
plant-type things, that would be under the nursery greenhouse.
So you're gonna make it retail, or put it under retail? Or are you saying you're gonna take, just like your comments here say, are you gonna combine lawn and garden with greenhouse and nursery?
No, I'm approaching this from the nature of the business. If it's something that fits in a storefront down here, I would roll it up under retail.
Right.
If it's something where they're gonna need this outdoor storage, and they're selling plants, and they need
Yeah.
outdoor space,
Got it,
that would
okay.
go under the nursery.
I just wanna
whatever.
clarify,
Okay.
because it's not.
Okay,
comment
does
from
that
Jim.
make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah. from
And
Jim,
that
he
sounds
was saying
good.
talking about
So
retail,
I think we got pretty much all the
So
ranges.
basically, you're saying outdoor storage is a differentiator.
Pretty much, yeah,
Yes.
in this case anyway.
Okay.
Okay. All right, moving on to page 17. I don't see any changes there. It's like another definition.
From the state.
Of therapy, state, yep. Top of page 18, medical dental office. You have it,
top of page 18,
the,
above that is massage therapist means a person who is licensed by the department and administers massage for compensation.
Right,
I
and
think we gotta be missing something.
it's by the
because
state, I
what-
changed that, I was working on this yesterday, it's by the state of Illinois, not
Yes.
by the department.
Well, how would we know that?
No, I changed it last night, I got the state of Illinois,
Okay, I got you.
the state of Illinois.
So
This
are
case, again,
massage
this,
therapists, well, I mean, I don't know this. Are they licensed by the state?
yeah.
Yes.
That's why I thought physical therapy and massage therapy could go
Yeah, they
together.
are. Yeah, and this came from a state statute that was referring to the Department of Health, I guess. And that's why I just said,
Professional regulations.
or professional regulations, rather, yeah, comes under that. Like, yeah, architects and land surveyors and roofers and plumbers, and it's all in there.
okay, under medical dental office, it says, could also be grouped into professional services establishment, could also call this simply medical clinic. And then also another question about urgent care facilities include here. So,
No, I would say no for the urgent care.
We talked about that last
We
week.
did, yeah.
Very different.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll keep them separate.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
I guess the question, and we didn't want to group them into professional services, we wanted to keep the medical dental offices separate as well, right? So separate
Yeah.
dental and separate clinic, or urgent care, I'm sorry, urgent care. All right, got that, Jim?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
So are you gonna add medical, dental, optometry? Was that your intention with the middle comment? Or you just added it to the definition?
He added it to the left-hand side.
Yeah,
so
that was
it's in
the only
second
change, yeah.
sentence, he had-
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not gonna do slash optometry?
So,
No.
Okay.
I see, always in the header or the.
Yeah, in the
no,
header.
title, in the title,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's fine, yeah. It defines it there. All right, top of 19, let's see, eliminate retail in title, so nursery, greenhouse, retail, and then greenhouse, nursery. We talked about the nursery, of course, that's fine there. And, it's fine, let's see, next one, catch-all for our office, okay, just a catch-all, okay. Outdoor dining, yep, that's a part of, should be covered elsewhere in Article 8, that's fine. And even Article 8, even on the code, village code, right?
Yeah.
That should almost be in the village code.
And I think you answered nature preserve and park is no, if I remember correctly. Was that last meeting or
Correct.
not?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that was answered.
Park, combined with nature preserve, no. And that's bottom of page 19.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to 20. I got a couple comments here. Personal service, one says, one comment, covered under page 4, studios, remove health club. That's my comment. I said, I do not like health clubs being grouped in this, since they are frequently larger facilities, yeah. And I think. when they were-
And we did, that was the fitness club.
Yeah,
and we put
covered
that
under page
10,000,
4 under
yeah.
studios, right?
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, we did pull that out.
Okay, so X health clubs here in this, on the far left
Mhm.
column, X health clubs there, and then that is covered, okay. Then, just under comment at the bottom of page 20, or it's second from the bottom, pharmacy or drugstore, primarily retail prescriptions or non-prescription drugs, it says there are still some independent pharmacies without drive-through windows. So, I'm not sure was there a limitation on this, or?
No, we just didn't have a definition, and I
Okay,
just put it in,
okay.
that's all.
All right, so, and you just didn't put a drive-through in that, because there are some without it, okay, I get it. Primary retail, no, yeah, okay, and you just didn't list with it,
Right.
okay. All right, so then we have physical therapy definitions, and physical therapy center, and physical therapist. The state of Illinois license as a physical therapist, there we go, state of Illinois. All right.
At the bottom of 21.
Yep.
Nursery.
Nursery out of the preschool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Title.
Yeah, perfect. All right, top of 22. The private club or lodge, that's one we discussed. Yeah, let's see, professional services establishment. See if there's any questions on that.
So are you going to include the educational professional services then in that one?
Or we're just retitling that other one, you know, the one that had,
Like we were talking about
art
the.
studios.
No,
studios?
the one we were talking about with the tutoring and/or special education.
Mhm.
Weren't we gonna add, just include that in the professional services?
I'd either fall under personal services or professional.
Okay.
Probably personal services.
Okay.
Personal.
Personal.
Yeah, because it's more, one,
Yeah.
not necessarily one-on-one, but more,
So,
but you're just.
I don't know, but if you
you're
read the
defining-
definition of personal services, I almost feel like education sounds better in the professional services.
Professional services.
Because if you read the definition of personal service establishment, that's more beauty shops, barber shops, tanning salon, nail salon, laundromat, health club.
Is there a phrase in there, like reoccurring visits, something you do on a frequent or occasional basis?
Yeah, it says provides frequent or recurrent needed services of a personal nature.
Yeah, so if you include tutoring under personal services, that would,
Yeah, I'll just add tutoring to it,
Yeah.
just to be sure.
Okay.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
I think kind of fits the
That's good.
nature of that,
That's a good-
yeah.
a good solution. All right, nothing else on 22 that I could see, page 22, moving on to page 23. Talked briefly about this, just a change in name, first from just, either from elderly to the infirmed, people who just need, who cannot care for themselves. On the right-hand side, wasn't really sure if you were just explaining?
I was, and I don't,
You're not really
that,
asking, you're
that
explaining,
first
right?
sentence, I don't know what I was saying, but I was just
Yeah.
saying, hey, we don't have to, in this case, we don't have to define each of these, they're all, similar. And then I understand there was concern over elderly because it's really more expansive than that, so I thought infirm was a better term because it suggests, as I say here, instability, unsoundness due to old age or some other disabling illness.
Wouldn't it be infirmed, ED?
I'm not an English
Infirm.
major, I don't know.
No, I think it's just infirm. I'll check.
I
I'll check.
don't think it looks right like that.
All right, I'll see.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on to the page 24, retail goods and retail sales, a change of name to reflect the current trend of combining sales and service. So instead of retail goods, it's retail sales or service establishment. So they're doing both, yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. No problem with that. 24, that's the bottom of 24, moving on to 25. Schools, I don't see any comments you've added, just a couple of definitions that we didn't have, so on to page 26. Short-term rental, we talked about that. That was just the one we picked from the two options that we had, we picked a new one. Specialty food service, covered under grocery, supermarket, yes. All right, that's bottom 26. 27?
Excuse
Yeah,
me.
go ahead.
Specialty food service, it says covered under, the comment is covered under grocery store, so that means that specialty food service is being deleted?
It would be, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, the catering comes under catering banquet.
yeah.
That was something, much different, I think, larger normally with different impacts. And then the bakery kind of, part of that definition covered all other
Right.
types of specialty shops. It wasn't just baking goods.
Okay, so we're deleting that category
Yeah.
from definition.
Yeah.
Okay,
And essentially, we were treating this as almost the same as we would, treating
Retail.
a grocery store bakery.
grocery.
All right, that's through page 26, 27. Of course, all the temporary stuff, third, fourth, and fifth items down, all temporary, we're gonna delete all those, right? Temporary outdoor.
Yeah,
temporary ground,
yeah.
That's all deleted.
Right, and the one that I haven't checked now, I remember, that I did not find was the contractor's office. Carmen thought that was addressed elsewhere in the code, but I haven't found that in our municipal code. The other stuff, like the entertainment and outdoor sales, I mean, I think there are things in the code elsewhere on that.
Okay. So-
Well, we're deleting them from the table, but the definitions are still valid.
Yeah, we can leave the definitions in, yeah, that's.
I mean, I guess are we necessarily including these because they're included in this part of the zoning ordinance, or is it because they're somewhere else in the zoning, in the village code? I mean, that's.
I would say if there's a term that's not in the zoning ordinance, I would delete it,
Okay.
and I will check that when we go through. I
Yes.
cannot remember as I sit here now, or as I go through this, if in Article 8, which discussed a lot of things, if these things were discussed in Article 8. But
Yeah.
if there's a term that's really not in the zoning ordinance and probably won't come up, then I would prefer just deleting it from here.
Yes,
That
I would
would be
agree.
my
Yep, yeah,
preference.
agree.
But I need to check that. I'm working now,
Okay.
daily cleaning all this up to try and present a draft where all these loose ends start to come together, and this is, so for right now, I need to have something in there that reminds me that, I need to check
Okay.
that, so I didn't delete it from here.
All right.
It will be deleted from the table.
All right.
For the first one on 27,
Stable business?
yeah, If that's the exact definition you want, the term is equine boarding facility, not a stable business.
Okay, I like
As
that
opposed to
better.
an
I like
unstable
that.
business.
Equine, that's good. Equine, what?
Boarding facility.
All right.
Boarding facility.
That's where all your equestrians are gonna look for that, not stable
Okay.
business.
All right, good.
Nice. That is a play on words. huh?
Yeah.
But isn't a stable business.
No, it's not, at all.
Okay, nice cleanup
Good.
there.
Good catch.
Okay,
There's your tobacconist and tobacco. store as well.
Tobacconist.
Baking store, okay, so that's page 27. Page 28, I saw on the right-hand side, do we want to limit or prohibit used car lots? So, that was, and there's one about vehicle dealerships, but then it's like, well, what about a used car lot, so,
I thought we had talked about prohibiting
yeah,
by memory.
okay.
Could be,
We
maybe I,
did say prohibited, but I don't know if you wanna consider exotic sports car. Those are oftentimes permitted, even though used cars are prohibited. Because they're deemed a different clientele, different, don't have the problems.
Vintage.
Vintage, yeah.
Exotic,
I'd
yeah.
let them come to the village and make a presentation. But I mean, you can't cover everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
You could do it by special use only.
yeah, I would say,
Just leave it as prohibited.
Let's
I just
prohibit
leave
it.
it out, just.
Yeah, let's prohibit it. And if they want, like I say, if you wanna bring, you've got old Mustangs and Caddies or whatever. and
why'd you have to say
Packards.
Mustang?
Sitting out there tonight.
Just trying to think of something old.
But the name vehicle dealership, how does that doesn't really indicate new or used, just in the category itself. If you call something vehicle dealership, that doesn't tell somebody whether it's new or used vehicles.
Yeah,
I mean,
right now it's
and
gonna be
typically the
prohibited, though.
dealership would be both.
Right,
Yes.
Yeah, so it's gonna be prohibited.
completely.
Yeah,
Okay,
so we're prohibiting, so it doesn't matter. So either one would be prohibited.
okay.
So, fair enough question. Okay, okay, yeah, next page, which is 29, I think it's the whole auto parts, tires, stuff that was already cut, so
Yeah.
just cut that whole section out again now. All right, and then I think that
Were-
just about does it.
Were you had talked earlier in the table about the temporary uses being struck? Is that what happened?
In the table, all the temporary uses, yeah, if you look at the
So
table,
then,
they're
do you
bottom.
need the definitions?
That's where I think
We were
Jim-
just talking
Jim
about that,
talked
yeah.
about, where he's
Okay.
gonna go through and just
I
make
think
sure
that's-
there's nothing else in the other articles.
Okay.
Then, because if there's somewhere else in the other articles, then we'll leave it in, but if it's not anywhere else in the ordinance, he's gonna pull them all out.
Okay,
Yeah.
So, which is good.
Okay, like I'm just a little confused here. On bottom of 28 and top of 29, you got two categories there, vehicle operations facility and vehicle rental agency. They're being deleted in the updates, or is, because there's no.
No, those
comment
were,
in-
those, so that far left column is from our current
Current.
2023 code, so there's no
Yes.
change. I just didn't write no change in there.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's, no
That's just
change.
no
I'm
change,
sorry,
yeah.
I didn't
Yeah,
put
that's
no
fine.
change in there.
And then the page 30, I really wasn't, okay, no. It's just wireless telecom antenna facility tower, just sub-definitions, I guess, okay, on 30, of a wireless telecommunications. Nice. All right, I think that does it for this round, all right?
And I don't think there's a lot of corrections. I would suggest that that just kind of goes on the shelf for now.
Okay.
And then you'll see it,
In the final, or the?
yeah, when we come back
The
and start
final
to
rough draft?
The final rough
Well,
draft.
the first
Yeah, so,
compilation.
and you'll
first
see it, and then
compilation.
like I said, I'm going through trying to clean up a lot of
Yeah.
things in one chapter to another and ensure we got the consistent terminology in some places, definitions that match up, so.
Okay,
I hope
good.
to present something that's fairly clean.
Okay, very good. Article 10, which I believe, I have to go back to the beginning, is probably item 6. No, that's Article 5, I'm sorry. It's agenda item 5C, which is Article 10, landscape. And that's pretty straightforward. We looked at this last time, made a couple of changes. At the bottom of page 1 of Article 10, we just got the staff comment that basically it's deleted because you don't need it, because you're always going to have stormwater quality as part of every development. So
Right, I
delete it.
thought that just kind of gave the wrong impression that like we didn't care about it unless it
Yeah.
was this,
Right.
Yeah.
special type of design, and
Sure.
it's all, you always get that review.
Yeah,
There's-
not always,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay, and then page 2, there was no changes. Top of page 3, where this is more of the discussion item, and we did have a lot of discussion about this last time, about the percentages of natural plant material native to Illinois and the upper Midwest. You made a good presentation in your staff comments. So my understanding is basically we have to figure out, do we want to leave it as 100% or some other percentage? The one proposal here was 33. I think my comment was something like more 75. I think the intent here is to try to use as much native material as
Yeah,
possible.
and, yeah, I think 33 now, now that's probably, way too low for what you're trying to accomplish, but I still think there's an awful lot of plants, having worked for a landscape architecture firm and spent a good portion of my career reviewing landscape plans. You kind of read, I wasn't trying to brag, but I do have a history with native plants. I've been closely associated with them and proponent and champion of them for over 20 years now. And I just think 100% excludes a lot of very pleasing, aesthetic plants that have, good hardiness, are not invasive, and have a place in a landscape plan. Japanese maples is a good example. Ginkgo trees, some people don't like the female ones because the little,
Yeah.
it's technically not a fruit, but they, they drop. But again, very hardy trees that are aesthetically pleasing, free of disease, and there's, I think there's a place for those
Yeah.
in a good landscape design. And those are just two examples. Carl Forster, feather reed grass, overused, if anything, that's the standard one you see with the kind of the golden tassels,
Yeah.
and it's a bunch grass. I mean, you see that every place. And that's of Eurasian origin, so, it doesn't have to be, prairie drop seed or
Yeah,
little
blue
blue
stem,
stem or
yeah.
something like that. So I would just shy away from 100%, 75 might be good. I offered a suggestion to split it up where you have all the trees. I wouldn't make it that complicated, but, all the trees 100% and the shrubs 50%. I mean, that gets too complicated, but I throw that out there. I threw it out there. And then the other thing, while I'm still talking, was I think it's kind of irrelevant whether we say Northeast Illinois or Upper Midwest, when I actually checked at kind of the very, very common native plants that you would find. There really wasn't, I didn't find a difference between Northeast Illinois and Illinois. So if we just said Illinois, because that's easier for me or some other staff person to check, I think that would be sufficient.
So
And-
Wisconsin is out.
yeah, well,
That's what I mean.
Wisconsin's gonna have a lot of the, it's essentially the same. I was looking at several websites trying to determine differences. The only, and I do recall, and I couldn't find the darn plants again, there are plants up along Lake Michigan, just because of these microclimates that are only found there, the kind of more watering
Yeah.
plants, there's a lot of native plants that are just kind of up in that corner, which would be Northeast Illinois, but may or may not be appropriate for Kane County anyway.
Okay.
But all of the kind of, stars of the native plant world would be native to southern Wisconsin, almost all of Illinois, Northeast Illinois. So I think just for simplicity, we could say Illinois. If you want to say Northeast Illinois, that's fine. I mean, but I just think.
I'd say Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Simplify,
easier, it's
yeah.
a political
Yeah.
boundary, it's easy
Right.
to define, and I think we're still getting pretty much the same results.
No, is this is basically trees and shrubs, it's not perennials or annuals.
Well, it would be grasses,
Grasses, okay.
trees, and.
Grasses,
trees and
shrubs, and trees.
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, do you want to eliminate begonias, you know, from the
That's what I
landscape
was
plan.
thinking all along.
Yeah, I know. Begonias specifically, yeah.
The red one.
Is this for new construction or people
It
modifying?
would be for new developments, like
Okay.
something
Yeah.
that came in that required a landscape plan.
Okay,
All
because
right.
I was gonna play devil's advocate.
It's not
that-
for your home.
To say if you're not gonna go count the number of chickens and horses, how are you gonna enforce the
No,
types
no,
of
yeah.
vegetation?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Development.
Okay.
Developments, there's usually design numbers put in there.
That
Yeah.
makes more sense.
Yeah, it'd be a
I
lan- a
I
landscape
didn't know if
plan.
this was a redo of an average homeowner existing in the village
No.
or
We're
just,
talking about-
Commercial and
okay,
developments.
Yeah, so.
We could
like-
get a chief vegetation officer.
right.
All right, so the question comes down to percentage and why, so I would agree with, probably 100% might be a little, I don't say extreme, but just a little bit too restrictive, that's a better word. And that, like you say, there's probably some good options out there that you could enhance the plan with, so. There is, I don't think there's a wrong answer, but I think we're trying to encourage native vegetation, it should be a higher number than 50. in my
Yeah, it
opinion,
might
so-
be, my 33 was probably way too
Yeah,
low. That
so
original.
I throw out 75, and that's what I think.
Yeah, I'd go 75.
Okay,
I mean,
all right.
my only objection, or my main objection to 100% is that means that now you focused on species which are restrictive, and if a disease or something comes in, now you wiped out 100%, you may wipe out 100% of what somebody has planted in a subdivision.
Yeah.
So you still need that diversity,
Yeah.
and that's 25% gives you that ability.
Yeah, well, we do have a diversity clause in here as well, so whether it's native
Yeah.
or non-native, you
Right.
know, it's, you know, if
That's-
someone had planted all Fraxinus.
You don't.
Ash, you know,
Right.
ash, the genus ash, I mean, that would have been
Yeah.
disastrous for that
All
subdivision.
right, so 75% in Illinois, not
Yeah.
Northeast, okay?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
All right, good,
Jerry?
move on. Now, I'm looking through the next few pages, and I don't see anything in red.
Correct.
Done? All right. Okay. We're on to, with the limited time we have, on to the maps.
Right.
All right, so this would be item 6, go back up to my agenda. Review zoning maps, item 6, open space, commercial zoning. So, a couple ways we can do that. There are the maps up there, or you have, unless you have a printed version that's, if it's good enough for you, or we can go up here and look at them as well, a little bit bigger maps, but, would you like to start off with, we'll talk about the open space?
Yeah, I'll talk about the open space, and right now, maybe we can circle back from this, but we just have one category of open space, and I understand, and I see, to some extent, a reason to break that up, maybe, you know, kind of the active and passive recreation, so you have the parks and ball fields in one open space, and the trails. So let's just put that aside. Let's come up with all of our open space. So what I did, using HR Green, which does a lot of our GIS work for us, they were able to come up with some base maps, I'll call them, that showed all the parcels within our boundaries that were owned by either Campton Township or the Forest Preserve District of King County.
And they're very wrong.
They could be. They could be.
What's the comment based on, Jerry?
Yeah.
The fact that we own 370-some acres of land.
Yeah, well, then that's, yeah, well, that's what we're here for, to figure that out. I will say, I checked on, most of these, wouldn't say it was 100%, but I checked through the county assessor's office or recorder of deeds and what they submitted. I mean, I didn't find anything that they had claimed was owned by one of those two bodies and wasn't. Now, there may be additional ones. You're talking about there's additional ones. Okay, well, good, that's what we, right, that's what we need to identify.
That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Jerry, on here, it shows you have 8.74 acres.
That's just the Garfield Harbor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, again, that's what we're here for. So these are the parcels, and there was one other odd parcel that I think had been previously identified as open space, and it was owned by, there's maybe two. There was Campton Historical Agricultural Lands, Inc., There was that one parcel that was zoned E1 currently, and then there was another parcel owned by WJD Partnership, care of James A. Wall. So those were the only two, and they had been on a previous open space map done by, I think Camaros had worked on it. So they're included in this. And you see on pages, I have 55 through 57, it lists all of the PIN numbers. There's virtually no addresses for these. And then the maps, and I tried to break this out, showing the pins. You can actually see the parcel lines. It doesn't come through too well on this, when it prints out, but they are there.
So Jim, just on page 55, 56, and 57, why is there data missing under current zone?
There was no zoning. There was no zoning.
So
On the current.
where did the data come from?
The data on the current zoning?
The data on these 3 pages,
The pins come from Kane County GIS,
okay?
right? The street address is also from Kane County GIS.
Yep.
The ownership is coming from the Kane County GIS through the tax records.
Yep.
And then, what was provided by H.R. Green, and the current zoning is from the 2014 zoning map.
Okay, so, I'm very familiar with Campton Township and with the Forest Preserve District.
Mhm.
There's one property on here from the school district, and I'm putting Jerry's comment aside for a moment. The WJD Partnership, care of James Wall, does anybody know what that is? Anybody ever heard that?
Let's look up the parcel and see where it's located. What is the parcel? 1502. It's north. Or mid 15th. I think 15th. What? What's that number again? 0815 302 401. 302 001.
Just looks out of place.
That's the.
Well, there's a lot of errors
That's
from our old map, the 2014 map, had
It's
errors.
in Hunter's Hill, it parallels.
The Carneros map was
it
never finished.
Parallels the bike trail.
So we're
And
working
I think it was
from
the piece that
a
was
challenging
bought,
foundation.
was it the piece that was bought?
We know there's
because
errors,
the
so
Forest
we're
Preserve
trying to
had never recorded it,
weed
somebody
through
bought
it.
it, and they started restoring it and such, but then the Forest Preserve finally did, get it figured out, and that may be why it got designated, that's the way we did. Yeah, see,
Yeah, you're
Is
right.
that along the Great Western Trail?
yeah.
Yeah, where the,
So-
north end of Hunter's Hill.
Yeah.
So here's,
Okay.
yeah, so that's Hunter's Hill, and it's a narrow strip that's just south of the Prairie Path. And then also, that might be it. Now, let's see what the PIN says about, this one says 4 point, how many acres was it on this list?
4.87.
Okay. Yeah, James
E3.
Falls, St. Charles,
Zone D3.
it is, there's no taxes on it, so it must be,
It's not a buildable lot, so it shouldn't be free.
That's another error.
property estimate plans, it's not even saying right there.
You're right, it's supposed to be
The
dedicated.
tax
They
bill
supposed to
doesn't
dedicate
say
it to
zero.
water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also,
So
So
this is gonna be the challenge going forward.
Right, so let's just listen to the comment from Jerry, because before we get into too much depth and detail, if one item on here is off by that much, I mean, if Jerry had said it's, 306 acres, not 304, we could
Mhm.
discount that. But Jerry, I interrupted you, can you just start over from, I think
Well,
you
it's
started with
approximately
it's
13.
wrong?
Yeah, it's approximately, I think, 13 parcels, but I'll point out one that is not us, that isn't listed here.
Okay.
And that is Garfield Cemetery, that's owned by the Campton Cemetery Association.
Yeah, do we wanna count those cemeteries as open space?
Well, that would be another issue, so I don't know.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't know what
No.
researched this and how it came up with this, because if you look up the PIN numbers, it very clearly
Yep.
says who the address of the bills.
But we've got zoning for cemeteries that wouldn't be considered open space.
I don't think not.
No.
So Jerry, go back to what you started with.
All right, well, I don't know if it's easy just to pass around the numbers or what, because there was, like I said, about 12, 13 parcels. For example, the first one would be 0825 300 020. It's 28.24 acres. And also that's part of our overall 370 acres. It's interesting, the numbers as measured and the number that's on the tax bill are slightly different.
What was that, I number, oh eight,
Yeah.
0825?
300,
300. Let me just show you on the map and see if it's going to come up.
Jim, was any of the data extracted from the assessor's office?
Well, yeah, that's where, when you go on the Kane County GIS, you click and it
Yeah,
and it goes
that's not what
back.
I asked. Did we specifically contact the assessor's office for this data? All of the property in the village is in Camden Township.
Right,
So you mentioned the county, and you
Yeah.
mentioned a firm that does the GIS. If we didn't contact the assessor's office, my recommendation is that we should, because that's where all the records, I've seen them back to the late 1800s, right?
Okay.
It doesn't mean that there's not mistakes, but I don't want to start off the bat being off by this much without having the input from the assessor's office.
well, the assessor's records go to the county, that's where the county gets
The
their.
recorder's
But
office.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean that the assessor's records match the county's, because it's not their responsibility to double check it.
Yeah,
So, you have, it's just different entities, but.
yeah, I mean, I can go back there, I would, but I,
Okay. Are both those
All
cemeteries?
this is ours.
Is this all cemeteries?
Just that. All this is ours, this is Garfield Heritage Society, our other organization.
Should that be also, you said the heritage should be,
Yeah, that should also be, it's also.
Open
under,
space.
Yeah, it's also under, conservation as well.
well, I think there's the issue is conservation easements. We don't have those listed as open space all the time.
no, all this map is showing essentially was the ownership, that's our starting point, okay? And if there's some things that are owned by the township or someone else here that should be open space, then that's really the first step in this zoning.
Yep.
The easement is a slightly different issue that we'll pick up, but the first thing right now is just, is this map, is what's on here right now correct? And then what is missing from it? And I know there's things missing.
Right, so, because of Jerry's involvement here,
Mhm.
and looking at this and saying, hey, this is off by whatever, I think not only should we contact the assessor's office, we should also contact the township. They have to have a list of their open space properties.
Yeah.
And we should start with the macro data before we get into the micro data. And it's not our job to fix everybody's mistakes that have happened over this period of time. But if we've only culled the information from the county sources, I think we need to be more local than that. I know there's subdivisions that are still zone farming that should have been zoned differently, so,
I had
mistakes can be made,
I
right?
had a discussion with someone at the county about
Okay.
that today.
So, but I think we should start at the township level and at least ask them to participate in this. It's just us asking for the information. And it's verifying what we have. I'm only concerned of his initial comment of,
Yeah, because
not the
one,
cemetery part, just
Yeah.
that we're missing 10 parcels.
I got one way to do it, it's like, to say, this is the information that I have,
Right.
and then just go to the township and say, could you validate this? Or just say the same thing, would go to Jerry and
I
say,
can submit you our tax bills, because we pay taxes.
Well, so I mean, the question then is that we haven't included all the open space, quote, areas that should be open space, because if it doesn't include Garfield Farm
No,
on the
Well,
space.
it does. It just indicate that it's owned
But-
by Campton Township, which it is. Now, Campton Township owns an easement on 95 acres plus the Harley Pond.
Yeah.
So that's 95 plus 10, let's say.
Okay, so the
So
question of.
105 of the 375 acres that we hold,
Okay.
Campton Township has an easement on 105, and then Open Lands of Chicago has the easement on the rest of the.
But you own,
But-
but you
We
own
own
it.
it, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
it's
you
all-
own it, so that's, and that's
but
what,
it's
I think
still-
Jim's point over here is like, who owns it?
Right.
Whether there's an easement on it or not is,
I mean, it doesn't matter who
It's this
owns
big
it.
area. But it
Isn't
is
it-
designated as open space. We don't have
Yeah.
the historical foundation listed as open space, and maybe we should.
But-
There's the cemetery,
Yeah,
and then this, the foundation,
okay.
historic farm.
Campton Historic Airport Lines.
So
Yeah, they should all be open space then.
Well, maybe,
Correct.
yeah, we
Except for
didn't
the
know this.
cemetery.
Except, well, the cemetery,
It has conservation easements that are for open space and specifically for an 1840s living history farm as part of the conservation easement agreement. between
The living
organization.
history farm is not
Yeah,
open.
and then,
it's not open.
It's not listed as open space.
Yeah, it's not listed, but it is.
But it is
owned.
open.
yeah, so it'd also be like the covenant that's on Campton Woods that is 26 acres that's supposed to be maintained as a natural area that has a very important perch fen on it. Now, it's just a covenant, so that's a concern, would be how to be sure that people in the long term understand that that was the deal when the development was approved, that it was supposed to be kept as a natural area, and then the homeowners association was to manage it unless they were to make some other
Yeah,
arrangements.
okay, well, I think we're,
So those are
we're diverging.
sort of some of the concepts of how you identify areas that have been designated as areas that are not supposed to be developed beyond where they currently are, I guess would be
Right,
the
but
thing.
And I
We
think
have
it's
to
where, I
identify
think it's where Jim,
areas
hold on a
first.
second, let me just, I think where Jim started the conversation, is like, this just designates open space, but that's not what type of open space it is. It could be farmland preservation, there's all different types of open space. So now, we're just trying to get a zoning, and I get to your point, that we wanna make sure that it's not developed. But first of all, I think we need to designate what is the open space, who owns it, and then we can if we want to make subcategories, then we can go
Right.
farmland preservation, easement, or what else, okay? But I think, otherwise, we're just gonna get going in too many different directions. But I think we need to validate the lots, or the parcels, for a better term, we'll have to validate the parcels, and then who owns it, and then once we know who owns it, then we can make sure we have the proper open space definition,
So,
all right?
are you saying that a lot of the property you're talking about is completely omitted, or it's just incorrectly
No,
clear?
It's, on this list, it says ownership by School District 303, Forest Preserve District, Hampton Township. We're listed once on one parcel, and then that gentleman Wall. So there's indication of ownership. I'm just trying to clarify who the owners are.
Okay, so
Okay,
the
so that's
parcels
all.
are accounted for, they're just incorrectly
There's some
identified.
that are probably, that are incorrect.
Okay.
And
Well,
it's
it
not
just,
that-
it would be way worse if 378 acres were completely missing from the
No,
list.
no, no, not
Versus
from
just
that, yeah.
revising it, okay.
What would be missing if you get into these other arenas where there's dedicated open space that are covenant protected within the development?
Sure.
Those are probably not listed in here.
Okay,
No,
well, but that's a much easier task to take on versus completely missing close to 400 acres.
And the village just approved using a special counsel to review land records to make sure we're not missing some of these conservation easements.
Well, it costs us nothing to work with the township.
Yeah, that's true too.
So we need to start there before I'm on a different dialogue here. But before we spend money doing that, let's call the information from the sources who are supposed to be monitoring that. My only point to you, Jim, is that the county isn't the only resource.
Oh, I understand that, I understand that.
Yeah. I mean, if you go to, each one of these parcel numbers, you can kick into this map or look for them, click on them, and
Yeah, that's what I did, that's what I did.
And basically,
But,
if we could just look at
ours
the,
are not as well as like the cemeteries.
the broad sense, the big map, and then the parcel map a little bit, are we missing anything, broadly from either of these maps? That's what I was gonna try to get Jerry to look and see what we designated in some version.
You know, and that's a hard thing unless you do drill down to those individual parcels, because it's,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you are missing some of the township's conservation easements, like the DeBears and Andersons, and all, and like.
all right, so then, are we designating, if something has a conservation easement, is that considered open space?
Yeah, it's legally required to be enforced based on what the agreement was between the two parties.
I would make that a separate subcategory, just like we have some
Yeah.
nature preserves that are maintained by the homeowners associations.
Yeah.
It's still open space, but you would make it a subcategory because it's
Right.
defined by that
Mike,
HOA.
you have a comment?
Clarification question, if we're talking open space, meaning undevelopable land, right? Because it's protected, it doesn't have to be open, it could be trees, it could
Right.
be
True.
bike paths, it
Yep,
could
yep.
be Fox Mill, that's what we're talking about, right? So then, yeah, what you're saying makes sense, it'd be, here's everything in open space, because you can never build on it, and here's why.
Or protected property.
Or protected.
Well, and for the township, though, we have to be careful, because like, they run it like a park district, they do have baseball walk over, soccer fields and baseball.
Well, there's
fields.
passive and active uses, so
Yes.
I get it, you know, you wanna protect the fence, you don't wanna develop, those, or put a baseball diamond on it, so.
And Jim has an answer to that too, about passive and active recreation, so.
I don't know if you know if you really need to zone that, I mean, I think that's a decision by whoever owns that area, if they wanna make it passive or active, but I think the important thing is what is open space, and I think from a zoning perspective is what is not to be developed.
The
And
township.
then we can drill down from there.
Well, that's what we're trying to do with the zoning code, if we take it
Yep.
to what the heart, Joe, we're trying to do just
I
that.
understand, I just,
Make it future,
Yep.
not
the
developed.
township's position on open space includes active and passive.
But the key is it can't ever be commercially or privately
Correct.
developed.
Correct. But I think if we start at the township level and work from there, I think that'll clear up a lot of it. The only thing that I disagreed, that Jerry said, is I wouldn't put cemeteries under open space.
No, I wouldn't put cemeteries on the open space either.
Okay, I misheard.
Okay.
Certainly just.
OS one, OS two, OS three.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to have 15 layers, you know?
Yeah.
I'd really like to simplify, like, from a zoning perspective, open space as basically protecting land from development. Now, there might be land that has some subcategories to it, and we'll maybe get into that later, but I think for the purpose of a map, whatever vehicle it is, farmland preservation, you know, or whatever vehicle we're using, I think it needs to be identified as open space, and then you could have maybe a subcategory or two.
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of